the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
All right. Welcome to Marriage Unhindered. I'm your host, Doug Hinderer, licensed marriage and family therapist. Great to be with you. Today I'm joined by ACE therapist and my daughter, Monica Hinderer, to continue our series of conversations about difficult conversations you need to have with your children and how you can prepare your children, for their most likely vocation, which is to marriage. But these are difficult conversations to have in our highly sexually charged culture that we live in. So, joined by ACE therapist Monica Hinderer. Hello, Monica Hinderer. How are you?
Good. How are you?
We're going to talk about difficult conversations to have with the children.
Yeah. Everybody, because of our biology, the way we were created, has a natural vocation to marriage. Now, some people discern a celibate vocation, but the majority of people listening to this and the majority of the children are going to have this natural vocation to marriage, and they're going to be inclined to be with someone in a heterosexual way. And so how do we have that conversation, or how do we establish positive kind of sexual ethics in our children?
It's kind of out of control right now. And I think some of the statistics are just kind of staggering, right? The median age for a first sexual intercourse is around 17 for both men and women, okay? Now, let's be clear about the median means 50% are below that number and 50% are above. So 50%, half of people who are sexually active in their teenage years are below the age of 17.
Right.
Approximately 55-60% of both men and women will have sex before the age of 18, right? So over half, over half, before they get out of high school.
Right.
Okay. By age 20, that number goes to 80%.
Right.
So just 2 years later, right, it's going to go to 80%.
And that's the introduction of college. I would say that you may have some, what this study would suggest is late bloomers.
Late bloomers.
Where they're probably not really exposed to things until college.
Yeah,
right?
sure. And I will tell you, my experience in doing marriage prep work is there's more pressure put on young women in college to become sexually active than there is on the young men.
Yeah.
And I would say more of the couples I've worked with where one of them is still a virgin, it's the man, not the woman. And that's a really difficult thing for both the bride and the groom to wrap their arms around. The bride has allowed other guys to be with her, and the husband hasn't.
Yeah, so I think that's a product of our culture shifting in the kind of liberation movement. We want to kind of look at the whole picture here at kind of the worth and dignity of the human person from today's perspective, the lens of kind of sexuality. And this idea that even, through social media or the shows that are on TV, our kids are exposed to sexual content. Even just someone posting a picture online that previously would have been banned from being posted, and now someone can post it on their private account, or what's allowed to be shown on TV now is very different. And so what happens is it shifts the perspective. So these shifts are going to happen with the content they're exposed to.
Right. And even if you don't own a television, and even if you own one computer and it sits on the kitchen table, your kids are going to get exposed to this through their friends, through the neighbors, unless you lock them in the house, right?
Sure.
And so it's not, yes, you want to protect them and shield them as much as possible, but you also need to inoculate them and prepare them so that, okay, when you are exposed to this virus, you know how to react to that, right? And that's really an important thing. So let's go to Carol Marie in San Diego. Hello, Carol Marie.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
It's a pleasure.
So as I was telling your call screener, I'm one of those that you had invited to call who made the wrong set of choices when I was younger and then wanted my daughter to make different choices.
Yeah.
And so when she was just 3 years old, I started telling her, oh, well, you wait until you're married and then you'll find your perfect husband and, you'll do grown-up things. And so I just figured, okay, well, I'll teach her wait until married until I figure out how to explain any time earlier. And I was just returning to the church. And as she got older and as I got more involved in my faith, I realized, oh, the real truth really is wait until marriage, which was a shock to me because I didn't realize that. I mean, I was raised Catholic, but I was raised with making all the wrong choices. And my choices were so wrong that it ended up that I ended up having an abortion. And I regret now more the having sex outside of marriage than even the abortion, because if I hadn't had sex outside of marriage, I never would have been put in a position
that's right.
to have had that abortion.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I think, you know what, and bless you, and thank you for your testimony. These are difficult things to talk about, but there are so many women out there in the same position. And, the point I tried to make to my daughters growing up is that, the downside is all on you. Right, because if you get pregnant, the boy's going to walk away, most likely, and then now where are you at here, right? And you're in a really bad predicament here, right?
The smallest thing that could happen is that you end up embarrassed for 9 months.
Yeah.
And that was enough for me to say I can't be embarrassed like that, which is terrible.
Yeah.
So a child dies because I didn't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah, and I think that when we engage, right, in these mistakes, especially at a young age, we're then faced with traumas or experiences, right? Like having an abortion because it was a decision made out of fear. And so sometimes I think people think that parents or the Catholic Church are coming down as these naysayers and all of these rules, but really the rules,
fun. Yeah, we take the fun out of life.
The rules are put in place to protect you from really traumatic experiences that you feel as though you have no way out of once you're in them. Yeah.
And I think, right. And my other thought is to parents is make sure your daughters know that your love for them is unconditional. And if they end up pregnant at some point, they're not getting kicked out of the house. They're going to be loved and nurtured and taken care of, and we'll figure this thing out together. Because if they can't turn to their parents, well, they're going to turn to someone who's going to have a whole different idea on how to fix this problem. So and God bless you, Carol Marie, for starting your daughter at age of 3, right? And I think we started age 3.
Can we ask, did you tell your daughter about these mistakes and experiences? Were you that open with her?
Not until a while later. I'm now a regional coordinator for Silent No More. Okay. And we tell our stories about abortion so that others might not make the same mistake. Yeah. And it was only when I started to become pro-life, which was another step in my coming back to the church. Yeah. It was after that I finally, she asked me once and I told her no. And then I told her later on that yes, in fact, and she was mad at me that I had lied. Sure. But when she was in high school, I was the only parent that went to the day that Planned Parenthood talked about what they were going to be teaching the kids. The only parent that showed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I pulled my daughter from the program and I said, no, I'm sorry, you can't go.
Yeah, girl. Beautiful. Yeah. And I think, and your point I think is good. I mean, and that's the message that needs to get out to every single parent. You cannot turn a blind eye to this thing. You have got to have your eyes wide open and start at age 3 to help parents have the conversation that your body is a beautiful thing. Sex is a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
Let's put
theology of the body.
Yes, theology of the body, right? And let's not talk about it being dirty. It's beautiful, but let's talk about in God's design and where the true beauty of it really comes to play within marriage. So, well, thank you, Carol. I can't thank you enough for your call and for your testimony and for your honesty. And we need to hear from more people like you who made mistakes and have bounced back from it, are back in the church and back helping other people to do good. So God bless you for your ministry and for your testimony.
And for any other women that are out there that are post-abortive, there are post-abortion healing programs in your local pregnancy resource centers and through Rachel's Vineyard. And they're really worthwhile. Even if it's been 30, 40 years, it's still worth going if you haven't already done so.
Yeah, there's no expiration date on healing.
No expiration date on healing. Right. You're right. And go get healing. And I worked with couples where the wife had an abortion in high school or whatever. It didn't tell the husband, and it continues to, it just eats away at her, in the middle of the night, right? Sure. And it affects her joy and her happiness. It affects her marriage 20, 30, 40 years later. Absolutely. All right. Carol, thank you so much for the call. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. We're almost out of time. Let's go
Yeah.
out, talk to Jackson in Orlando. Hello, Jackson. I've only got a couple of minutes, my friend. Talk to me.
Hey, yeah, I guess I'll be quick. I just kind of wanted to share. I'm younger. I'm in my early 20s, so I kind of came up on the internet, got exposed to pornography, like in a roundabout way, fell into it, got in trouble, but never really got talked to about it. Had my first intercourse probably around 16, and then slowly and sporadically, not a ton throughout the rest, and then so it kind of stopped. I was always picky, but it was weird in college. There was a moment where my own mom was like, "I've had more than you've had, and you're in college," and it's
social pressure.
yeah.
Wow, pressure from mom. Yeah, that's a little unusual.
Sure.
Right. And same with my sister, it was kind of at both of us. She was like, "What the heck are you two doing?"
Oh.
And you hear on the radio or from adult men, I'm like, "Oh, I wish I had had more sex in college, but now I'm, doing this." And,
Yeah.
that led to, uncomfortable experiences and ended up, excuse me.
No,
It's okay.
Take
Never
your
talk
time.
about this.
Yeah.
Ended up into a all right. Same-sex situation that went on for a couple months. I didn't realize it affected me like this still. But thank God that I started reading the Bible, and it got me out of that situation.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
But also ended up ruining my next relationship because the girl I was with after that, she was like a new age spiritual, not necessarily Christian. And I, still didn't, I felt the rebuke, when we would have our relations. But yeah, I've got I'm dating a Christian girl now that,
Beautiful.
wants to wait. And, she's not perfect. Neither of us are.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, God bless you for sharing that and for your testimony. And I, unfortunately, I'm out of time. What I'll say to you is, get some help. Talk to a counselor who can help you process these traumas from childhood and understand them, get them figured out, get them processed, get them behind you so that you are free to freely and reverently and chastely love your girlfriend and your wife someday.
Yeah. What I'll say is, and I think that you're a great example to this, is that everyone has these experiences and there's negative consequences to them, even emotionally. Men are not, subject to not feel those things or experience them. These are still painful experiences that you can also receive healing for.
Monica will be back next Thursday. We're going to pick this topic up. We still have a lot more to talk about. Have a good night, everyone. This entire episode of Marriage Unhindered is on the updated Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free and updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers.